Hello and welcome, my dear friend. There's a reason this found you today, not because you were searching, but because something in your spirit was already leaning in, already ready to hear what most people aren't willing to admit out loud. And here it is. You've become what they only pretended to be. While they were performing confidence, you were building it in silence. While they were talking about energy, alignment, purpose, you were living through the fire that forges it. While they were obsessed with appearing healed, you were breaking open behind closed doors, doing the sacred work no one claps for. And now there's a difference. Not a loud one, not one you flaunt, but one that can be felt, because you don't need to say a word to carry power anymore. You see, they were chasing shortcuts, reading scripts, wearing masks, trying to look whole enough to be admired. But you weren't playing that game. You were outgrowing the need to be seen. You were in the shadows, being remade. This wasn't about being better than them. It was about being realer than who you used to be. And that difference, that quiet integrity, it's starting to show. People can feel it, even the ones who don't know what to call it. They sense something around you is different, calmer, sharper, heavier in the best way. They can't place it, but they know it's real. Because here's what's happening now. Your presence no longer blends in. It disturbs what isn't rooted in truth. Not because you're trying to disrupt anything, but because truth, when fully embodied, creates pressure. And most people only know how to survive in illusion. That's why some will keep their distance now. Not because you've changed into someone cold or proud, but because you've stopped shrinking. You've stopped softening your light to make others comfortable. And when someone's been relying on illusion to feel important, being around someone authentic can feel like suffocation. It's not that you're judging them. It's that you're no longer accessible in the same way. You're no longer auditioning for roles you've already outgrown. They feel it, even if they won't say it. And what they feel is the shift. Because while they were keeping up appearances, you were in the trenches with your soul, wrestling, surrendering, being humbled, being cracked open, not posting about your breakthroughs, living through them, not quoting spiritual truths, becoming one. And let's be honest, there were nights you looked at yourself and wondered if you were the fool, because sometimes it seemed like they were winning. They had the crowd, the applause, but deep down, something in you knew. You knew that real power doesn't rush. It doesn't seek validation. It waits for alignment. You didn't skip steps. You took the long way, through grief, loss, silence, self-forgiveness. And that's why what you carry now can't be taken from you. It's not rented, it's not copied, it's not performed, it's embodied. Let me ask you something personal. Have you started to notice the strange tension in certain spaces? Not drama or disrespect, but a quiet stiffness in the air, like the room doesn't quite know what to do with you anymore. That's because your frequency no longer allows for pretending. Your energy doesn't enable small talk when the moment is sacred. Your spirit isn't playing along with dynamics that were always off balance. You're not the same, and it shows. You no longer soothe egos to keep the peace. You no longer minimize your truth for the sake of harmony. You've stopped co-signing what you no longer believe in, and that alone exposes the performance, because it reveals the lie. The lie that sounding healed is the same as being healed. The lie that looking spiritual is the same as living spiritual. The lie that speaking about love is the same as choosing love every single day, especially when it's hard. You stopped performing. You started becoming, and that shift, it can't be unseen. So now here you are, not shouting, not proving, not asking for credit, but glowing, anchored, moving differently. And even though you don't always see it yourself, they do. They feel it in the way your presence disrupts the room's rhythm. They feel it in how your silence now speaks louder than their most practiced words. Because here's the truth. You don't carry the energy of someone trying to be anything. You carry the frequency of someone who already is. There's a stillness about you now, not passivity, but power that's been tempered by fire. You don't just talk about transformation. You are the transformation. And the ones who pretended to walk this path, the ones who mimicked depth, recited truths, wore healing like a costume, they're scrambling now because they can't imitate what you've become. Not anymore. They can repeat your words, but they can't replicate your essence. They can copy your rhythm, but they can't embody your root. Because the only way to carry this kind of power is to be dismantled, to be rebuilt from the inside out, with no guarantee it would ever be seen, rewarded, or applauded. And you did that. You stayed in the dark long enough to stop fearing it. You sat in silence long enough to stop needing noise. You walked through the valley without theatrics and came out glowing. Not with the glow of glamour, but with the glow of clarity. And here's the thing. Clarity doesn't look impressive to everyone. It doesn't shout, it doesn't sparkle, but it terrifies the ones still living in confusion. Because your clarity is proof that peace is possible, and that they've chosen chaos for far too long. You've become proof that you don't have to manipulate to be magnetic, that you don't have to over-explain to be understood, that you don't have to perform to be powerful. And that proof, it creates quiet waves. Suddenly, people are listening when you speak, not because you're louder, but because your words are rooted. You've become the one they come to for truth. Not because you market yourself as wise, but because your life speaks before your mouth ever opens. This is what spiritual royalty looks like. Not hierarchy, not status, but a presence that shifts things simply by existing. A walk that reorders the energy of a room without trying. An authenticity that makes people pause, sometimes even confront their own masks. But here's the most important part. You didn't do this to impress anyone. You did it because your soul wouldn't let you do anything less. This path wasn't optional for you. You were called, chosen, drafted into this transformation without a manual. And the beauty is, you never needed one. Because what you needed wasn't instruction, it was remembrance. You weren't becoming something new. You were returning to something ancient, something divine, something that was always yours. You're not ahead of anyone, but you are in alignment now. And alignment has a sound, it has a scent, it has a gravitational pull. That's why people are showing up differently around you now. Some drawn in, some backing away, some confused by their own reactions. It's because your vibration is uncompromising now. It doesn't bend for approval. It doesn't lower itself to be relatable. It just is, clean, clear, and unmistakably rooted in truth. And that's why you don't need to chase anything anymore. Not connection, not closure, not validation. Because when you've become what others only pretended to be, the things that are meant for you recognize you without introduction. That's your new reality. The ones who are meant to walk with you, they'll feel it in their bones. The opportunities that are aligned, they'll unfold without force. And those still pretending, they'll either be inspired to rise or remove themselves from the atmosphere you now carry. Either way, you're free. Free to live unperformed. Free to lead without trying. Free to rest in the knowing that you've earned this identity through sacred fire. So walk tall, my dear friend. Not to be seen, but because you finally see yourself. And That changes everything. Thank you so much for taking this journey with me. If this message resonated, please like, share it with someone who might benefit, and subscribe to stay connected. Continue your awakening journey by choosing one of the videos on your screen that resonates with you the most. See you there.